Welcome to Janam Conversations. Today we have with us Mr. RVS Mani, who was the Under Secretary in the Ministry of Home Affairs during one of India's most turbulent times. He subsequently went on to senior positions in other ministries, but at the end of the day, he was more known for what he knew and what he did. Mr. Mani subsequently wrote a book, The Myth of Hindu Terror, but in conversations, we need to know from him a lot of things that happen behind the scenes in the Ministry of External Affairs, Ministry of Internal Affairs like the Home Ministry, the subsequent ministry that dealt with the Government of India like the Prime Minister's Office, and also more importantly, what happens in states like Kerala, for example, where the home of jihadi terror, as we know, rightly works, and that is a dangerous phenomenon. Mr. Mani, welcome to the show, sir.
Namaskaram.
You are best known, you've spoken such a lot has been written about it. You speak in different public forums about the most important or most deadly terror attack that India ever faced, the 26/11. Of course, we had the Mumbai bombings before that, but that was more of a kind of a suicide attack, so to call it. But this is purely perpetuated by the Pakistani establishment as it's known now very clearly. Thankfully, Ajmal Kasab was caught, so we had a note of what happened. But take us through the entire sequence of what really happened on 26/11. Where did it all start?
See, it did not happen on 26/11. Prior to that, we had inputs. The Indian naval establishment, including the Coast Guard, had sighted the ship in Pakistani international waters. Later on, there are two versions of it. The official version, in which P. Chidambaram has made a statement in the Lok Sabha on this 11th of December 2008, when the session convened after the 26/11. He had said that Indian Coast Guard and Navy had sighted the ship in the Pakistani waters, but since no further intelligence were available, they abandoned this surveillance. This is what Chidambaram's statement is.
Does it really happen that way? That's my question.
Now, I am just giving you a counter question. You ask any security establishment who has worked, any security establishment anywhere in the world, when they sight an hostile element, when they see a hostile element, albeit even in the foreign territory, and they have intelligence input to the effect, do they abandon later on because no further intelligence is given? I challenge everybody in the security establishment, whether it is the police or it is the army or the intelligence or the topmost intelligence or whatever it is, US or UK, wherever the security
they have to keep tracking it till it
they would not. Even a normal security guard will not even track it if he has already in the knowledge and he has sighted a hostile establishment, a hostile element. That is number one story. Number two is, thereafter the Navy was supposedly redeployed somewhere, we don't know.
Who did it? We don't know.
The internal information was, because I had written about a meeting which took place on the day which Shivraj Patil was thrown out of the cabinet after the 26/11. On that meeting, top security brass was there, including the then National Security Advisor called M.K. Narayanan. During the course of that, there was no meaningful meeting. Everybody was cutting at each other's, shouting at each other's throat, because the security establishment heads were all aghast that they had to take the blame for something which they could have averted. But nothing, no conclusive thing happened. In the meantime, interim, there was a message which came that Shivraj Patil had left the meeting.
He was made a scapegoat.
But everybody was shouting at each other. So that is also, and there were some voices coming out that the topmost office in the country, a telephone call had dawned to lay off.
Can you just repeat that, what he said, because it's very, very important.
I have said it with Savio Rodriguez also. Somebody from the, I don't know who is that, I don't know absolutely nothing about it. I was not even aware of it that these things have happened. The voice came out that the topmost office of the country, some phone has gone. to simply lay off, not to stop it.
Don't talk about it.
Nobody, I won't talk about it. Number two is, because why I believe it is true is because it came out of the blue, no minutes were maintained, it came out of the blue from a top-most security personnel. Now, why I believe it is, number one, about the capacity of Indian security forces to avert any attack. On the same thing happened on the 31st December 2014, when the Pakistan wanted to enter into India through sea route and carry out a deadly Tariq.
No, let me draw the date line very clearly. 31st
December 2014.
That is the time Narendra Modi government
had already come in.
in.
That time the security forces were given a free hand and they repulsed the attack.
Which means, had it been done earlier, 26/11 could have been prevented.
Easily, that means.
But somebody wanted 26/11 to happen. Mr. Mani, somebody in Delhi, in the political establishment, wanted 26/11 to happen.
Now, I will tell you certain other dots reinforcing this. I am telling you because I am telling you something more to reinforce this. You must have travelled to Mumbai. I have my friend who was living in, he is still there. He is running a company called Indo Analytics or somebody. He lives in Colaba. He also confirmed. In 2000, let's go back in time to 2008. Fishermen, they land in Colaba, walk through a fisherman, Kolivada, fisherman's
Is it that easy?
Another basic question you asked. In the evening at around 7:30,
A non-local,
10 people with communication equipments and arms.
walking through a
Fisherman Kolivada.
and getting cabs and other things to
That
travel.
is subsequent. Badwar Park, they reach, they ask for a cab. They get cabs so easy in Badwar Park at 7 o'clock in the evening.
No way. I mean, I go to Mumbai often. It's terrible to get cabs at that time in the evening.
Right. Especially in that Badwar Park area. You don't get a cab. Indian currency.
They paid the cabs in Indian currency.
We don't know it was a cab or it was a car or waiting for them. We don't know.
So that means there was a kind of local sleeper cells or local support.
Solidly supporting them.
So
And GPS has improved much more. Those days even the GPS was not very at a primitive
so
stage.
at a stage, Indian Navy was asked to lay off, not to track that particular ship or boat or whatever it is that was coming into Indian waters. They were asked to lay off.
That flew out from a meeting where there are no records for that, but it happened.
Then you have this local support being provided to Kasab and company.
Right, my friend
travel.
Sri Iyer calls it a reception committee.
So they travel from there and they
Go to their destinations precisely.
Yeah, they knew where Leopold Cafe was, where they knew where Chabad House was, they knew where Taj was, they knew where Trident was. They knew all the locations very well, and they know CST also well.
And the amount of ammunition used in that 40 hours or 48 hours or 54 hours was like what would be used in a small time battle. Did you mean that just 10 people swam and walked through the thing and carrying the arms?
That means they were provided arms after they landed
There was an inventory already moved earlier.
into Taj and other places.
I will tell you one interesting incident. If you have known the place, if you know the history of the place, outside the Taj, just outside the Taj, there was a chai ki tapuri, they call it. It's all, we call it potikadai and tea shops. It was there. Old timers of Mumbai, at least 20 people have confirmed to me. After this 26/11, it suddenly disappeared. Even the owner is untraceable.
That means there was
I am giving you some adequate hints.
No, Mr. Mani, let me come to this. Now, Kasab and company arrive at Leopold, they arrive at Taj. Actually, they went to Leopold first, did the shooting there, and then they moved into Taj after that. Now, what thing I have read in the media prior to this is that there was a very, very senior Maharashtra government official who was present in Taj on that day, a lady, if I'm not mistaken, and she walked out unhurt, unscathed, even after the attack took place. Is it really true?
It is true. I have written it about in my book. One additional Chief Secretary Home. You know, going with the work domain, the DGP of Maharashtra reports to her.
Something similar you're seeing now.
Yes. Additional Chief Secretary Home. Acha, we had sent several intelligence inputs about an impending attack.
The Ministry of Home Affairs
Had
sent
sent
intelligence inputs to the Mumbai police or Maharashtra police saying that there
Chief
is likely to be
Secretary,
an
a
attack.
DGP, Chief Secretary, from Chief Secretary will directly come to Additional Chief Secretary Home. From DGP also she would have got the input. Still she was found in a 5-star hotel on the coastline,
And she walks out after the attack.
absolutely unhurt. And she brags it about it on the first anniversary of 26/11 in a Mumbai Mirror interview.
That she was there in that
And
hotel.
she came unscathed. She has bragged about it, that nobody can touch me types. In addition to that, the irony was, again we had talked about it, the Indian senior internal security establishment was in Pakistan.
The entire top brass was there.
And most important, I was sent to Lucknow in a court case that did not relate to my domain.
So somebody there in Delhi did not want anybody to be there in the Ministry of Home Affairs when
And
this
on
happened.
25th, I was in Lucknow. I finished off the court case and I came back. In the meantime, the precise location of Taj and Trident, the input was come there and it was taken back. There was nobody to receive that input.
That means there was an intelligence input that came to the Ministry of Home
On
Affairs.
25th, last input in
25th,
the
the day
sequence,
before the attack.
in the sequence of events.
And nobody was there to receive this intelligence report. Because everybody had disappeared. Everybody was called to Pakistan. You were sent to Lucknow for
Lucknow
some
by a
case.
person intentionally, we will talk.
Intentionally you were sent to Lucknow so that there will be nobody here.
Because that work did not pertain to me. That is not my domain.
Because this is getting extremely serious, Mr. Mani. I mean, of course, you've written it a lot about in your book, you've spoken about it, but for the first time, I think you're putting it really on record that the Indian establishment then, the UPA-2 government, if I'm not mistaken, was hands in glove with the Pakistani government in indirectly or directly ensuring that the 26/11 attack happened. Now, let's go back to the security part of it, the forces. That point in time, the Mumbai police was asked to move in. They were antiquated, had very antiquated arms. They were not really force. There was Hemant Karkare there. Now, very, very strange because he was the head of ATS, if I'm not mistaken then. He went in, of course, he didn't fire a bullet, but he got killed in a crossfire. More importantly, there was also Marcos available then in Mumbai, the naval commando force. But can you take us through, because I'll take you through the NSG part later, but this first part of it, could that attack have been handled in Mumbai itself in that point in time? If not, what really went wrong?
So, Marcos was drafted in by Defence Ministry much later because there was a mounting pressure from Indian high commissions and embassies located in Delhi and foreign services and all. As far as the Home Ministry is concerned, one Joint Secretary came in charge of police and redeployed the NSG, which is under his domain, which is his authority. Later on, we were at wit's end how to handle it because it was unabating. First thing is Shivraj NSG moved. After deployment orders were out by 9:30.
Now let's look at the time sequence. The attack in
9:30,
Mumbai,
9:40.
the attack in Mumbai on Taj and Leopold happened around 7:30, if I'm not mistaken. Or 7,
Let us round it off at 8.
8 o'clock it happened.
Because 8:15, 8:20.
So Delhi would have got to know it, say 8:15. Delhi would have got to know it.
8:30 or so they got to
So
know. I moved from my home in my personal bike so that I'm not stuck in a traffic jam.
Okay, and you were the only official present there at that point in time as an under secretary. Now NSG is stationed in Manesar, which is in the outskirts of
2
Delhi.
hours.
Okay, 2 hours away. They had to be brought into the Palam technical area where a special aircraft obviously would have been arranged, and from there, say 8:15 or 8:30, and they were quick reaction force, so maybe they started by 8:45, 9:45, 10:45, 11 they would have been in Palam technical area. Were they?
They were around 12. They were there around midnight.
Midnight.
Just before midnight they were
They were there, they were ready.
Because I was involved in so many things, I could not keep track of that, but surely on 26th, not on 27th date, calendar date.
So 4
Surely
hours
on
from the
27th.
time the attack happened in Mumbai, the NSG forces were ready in Palam technical area.
Perfectly right.
What time did they reach Mumbai?
Around 5 o'clock in the morning.
Why?
See, I will tell you what happened. Honorable Home Minister instructed us that he will accompany the energy team to Mumbai.
Why should a home minister of a country go with a specialized commando force? He has his own aircraft. He has BSF and other aircraft he can travel by.
I do not know. That is the best person to answer that question is Shivraj Patil.
Because, I mean, you are stopping a commando force which is sitting inside an aircraft who, after sitting for some time, please correct me if I'm wrong.
You get cramps.
They will get cramps, isn't it?
Cramps.
So you are putting an NSG commando
And
force.
mind you, in the middle of November, midnight of November, it's quite cold. The cramps develop faster.
So they were sitting in an aircraft waiting for the home minister to come from his home to accompany them to Mumbai. How many hours of delay was that?
2 hours and 20 minutes to be precise.
Mr. Mani, this is very crucial because 2
Maybe
hours.
more because I started counting from 12 midnight. They were already there. So maybe it was 2.5 hours or 2 hours and 40 minutes.
So that means that is a crucial time that was lost when a number of people in the Taj were getting killed by the terrorists because the NSG moved in pretty late. Now I'm told after the NSG reached Mumbai also, I mean Shivraj Patil obviously would have taken his own sweet time to come to the airport. I believe he was called repeatedly, is it true? To ask to please come rush.
Who?
Was it true?
Who?
Shivraj Patil was called and asked to come to the airport as soon as possible.
We were sending messages to his home that energy is waiting, energy is waiting, energy is waiting, but there was no response. So that every time we were saying that let us pick up a local resource, like for example the Central Intelligence Security Force,
The CISF.
CISF. They are the experts in vital installation security clearances. See, energy may be an elite force, but this was a vital intelligence installation.
And they were already available in Mumbai airport and all they would have been
RCF, Mumbai Airport, there are 2 establishments, it was suggested to them. There was no approval, no answers. First it was offered that CISF from Mumbai Airport, no answer. Second proposal, CISF from Rashtriya Chemicals and Fertilizers in Chembur, no response. Third was CRPF Group Center was there, battalion is there in Navi Mumbai, no response.
That means the Ministry of Home Affairs was not giving clearance for any security forces.
Minister of Home Affairs.
The Minister of Home Affairs, let's say Shivraj Patil refused to give clearance for any local available central security forces like the CISF, CRPF to be moved into Taj and other locations. He refused.
As a disaster mitigation,
Yeah, at the first
damage mitigation,
yeah,
as a first responder,
first responder,
they would have mitigated to a great extent some, because they are also qualified
and they have modern arms with
They have
them.
modern arms in them. There are no response coming.
What happened after the NSG landed in Mumbai? They landed by what, 5 o'clock now?
They landed by around 5.
That means 3-hour delay in Delhi to Mumbai. That they were kept for 3 hours in Delhi.
4:30, 4:40 or so he landed. There was a protocol, I don't know whether the minister insisted or not, but there was a protocol for the minister.
I mean, here we are talking of a crisis situation.
War.
Yeah, you are talking of a war, an urban war, and the minister insists on a protocol. What are you waiting for, a car or something to pick
I
him
don't
up?
know, there's a salute and all that. I don't know what is the protocol mean.
I mean, these people should have been rushing. I mean, I believe, I remember seeing those videos of those days. They were taken in ordinary
Ramshackle bus.
buses.
More importantly, on ramshackle buses, we will have a separate dialogue on this. More importantly, that also there was a half an hour delay.
Every minute was precious.
It was
There
war.
were people in
war.
Taj who were getting killed, who were getting slaughtered. And here is our home minister insisting on one accompanying them from Delhi to Mumbai, causing a 2.5-hour delay. And then once he lands in Mumbai, he insists on a protocol. Whereas these forces should have been rushed to the site in helicopters or whatever you have. I mean, Mr. Mani, it's just strange because if you put all this together, the sighting of the boat or the ship in the waters by the Indian Navy and the Indian Coast Guard, they were told to lay off, let the thing go. Then you have the minister the entire ministry officials being called to Pakistan on the same day of the attack.
I want to add a little more facts, simple facts on that. This minister officer is going to Pakistan. You complete this and then I will add.
Yeah, and then you have you being sent to Lucknow, and then the idea was that there would be nobody in the crisis or the control room or whatever you would call it in the Ministry of Home Affairs on that day. At your level as an undersecretary, there would be massive limitations for you to take orders, isn't it? Or give orders rather. So can you continue, sir?
We were talking about this delegation going there on 25th. You know, right from around 14th November and prior to the first week of November also we had a small input. 14th November also there is a possibility. The intelligence agencies were working for overtime. Let us not blame them for this 26th.
There was actually blame on them, if I remember, that there was no intelligence, but there was actionable intelligence on the ground.
Right. They were working overtime after that. They were doing everything to collect it. And they were sharing with us. In the meantime, this date for dialogue came. External Affairs also insisting that let us not conclude this. So the dialogue was fixed for one day, that is 25th of November 2000.
The date is very scary, isn't it? 25th of November, and this particular boats were sighted 2 weeks before that in the Indian waters.
20th it was sighted.
Yeah, so you obviously knew that there was something happening. I mean, the Pakistani establishment, the ISI or who was working on it, they knew that they had to call all the Indian officers to Pakistan.
25th of November was the only date. We have a certain protocol for each of the delegations which go out of this. But in this, an officer was additionally introduced.
Who was that?
He was, let us not take his name, but he was introduced into the delegation.
Why?
At the instance of somebody higher up, not from the Home Ministry, but outside the Home Ministry.
What was his role in that?
Home Secretary was there, others were all joint secretaries, but this gentleman was an additional secretary, one notch above the other people, but below the Home Secretary, so that he de facto becomes the number 2 of the delegation.
And what was he doing in Pakistan?
We will come to that. I am just coming to that. He was also an officer of the Home Ministry, no doubt about it. First, some legal notice comes. He advises the Home Secretary that this man is RVS Mani is a competent chap. He has dealt legal cases in earlier ministries also. Let us send him to Lucknow.
So you were sent to Lucknow by him?
I did not see any design at that time. Thereafter, he goes with the delegation. On 25th, the Pakistanis left the agenda unfinished.
Was it deliberate?
Yes.
I believe they were even taken on a holiday or something?
Later on 26th. 2 officers representing our agencies in the delegation advised the Home Secretary to please return, not take to Pakistan beat.
So the Pakistanis intentionally delayed the departure of the Indian Home Ministry delegation back to Delhi because they knew what was going to happen in Mumbai.
They knew. Rahman Malik had full knowledge of it. Subsequently, because they were junior in protocol than this additional secretary, an additional secretary said, let us do it along with 1 or 2 from the External Affairs people. They agreed. The Home Secretary agreed. He relied more on the seniority, as generally it happens in the government of any government. He relied more on the hierarchy than on substance, and took a decision because it was a Home Secretary's call. The additional secretary prevailed upon him to stay back.
So the additional secretary was privy to some information. Now I am making a conjecture here, it may or may not be true. He knew that something was coming up from Pakistan to India on that day, something was going to happen in India, and he didn't want the Indian Home Ministry officials to return. They even went on an extended 1 more day holiday, so and that is the day the 26/11 happened.
You can check up if you can find out. I am not going to share any names in this delegation. 1 or 2 of the officers who advised the Home Secretary from the agencies, our own agencies, who were the delegation, came back by private flight in the next day morning.
Two officials left Pakistan, got back to India in a private aircraft.
It's a normal commercial flight on 26th morning. Because they were fed up with, they had all the knowledge, they tried to advise the Home Secretary, but Home Secretary ignored them and relied more on his number two strategically, who was an intruder.
Now this is all kind of making it very scary, Mr. Mani. Was there an inquiry or a commission that went after this to inquire what really happened in 26/11? I think there was some judicial commission that was there, but that never happened. But
these are all factors, not at the central level. There has been no commission, no inquiry till date.
So we never will know, at least now, what really happened on 26/11. True, it was a Pakistani attack. Ajmal Kasab was caught luckily by Tukaram Omle. Even that was a real luck that he was caught by a brave policeman.
I will come to many other facts about this.
Yes, sir. Please continue.
So this gentleman, on his advice, the delegation stays back for one day. Rahman Malik gives an appointment for courtesy call at 3 p.m. in the afternoon on 26th. The Indian delegation makes a courtesy call on him at 3 p.m. There an offer is made that since you are going to stay back, why don't you visit Muri, which is a small hill station near Islamabad.
So the day the Ajmal Kasab and his fellow terrorists landed in Mumbai, the Indian team was actually calling on the Pakistani establishment.
Home Secretary.
Home
Minister. Interior Minister they call
Yeah,
it.
Interior Minister in Pakistan, Rahman Malik at that point in time.
3 o'clock.
3 o'clock.
Pakistani time.
Because the timeline is
Timing
very
I'll walk through the timing even more.
Okay.
Thereafter, they traveled to Pakistan and traveled to Muri, and by around 6:37, they reached Muri. Muri is a place, those days the communication systems were not very good, very poor.
The Pakistanis selected the place very well, isn't it?
And 6:37 local time, they land in Muri. Is 7:30 to 8 Indian time. The terrorists walk through the gates.
So it's all like a
Precision.
It is like a set-up game now, Mr. Mani.
Precision. It's called systems thinking.
The Pakistanis knew what they were doing. They wanted the Indian Home Ministry delegation to be held back because there will be nobody in Delhi to take a call.
Even 1 minute here and there, some call could have happened. So the precision of time precision.
Mr. Mani, I wish I could go on and on and on. I'm sure that we've spoken for quite a long time now. It was wonderful speaking to you. I'm sure that another day when you are in Kerala and in Trivandrum, Thiruvananthapuram, we would like to speak to you and understand more about the security perspective.
Positive.
Okay.
Positive.
And ladies and gentlemen, that was Mr. RVS Mani, who is a treasure trove of knowledge of what really happened in various security incidents in India, various terrorist attacks in India. His book, The Myth of Hindu Terror, actually is a revelation of what really happened there. The Hindu.
Rajashekhar. Why I came, what brings you to Trivandrum?
Okay, yeah. I think he has come to Trivandrum basically to campaign here and to actually speak in public forums, which he's doing today. But more importantly, Mr. Mani understands the security establishment's perspective, because we got to learn from mistakes, as they say. We got to learn from mistakes. And if we don't learn from mistakes, we actually are condemned to repeat them. And 26/11 was one big wake-up call for all of us. Thank you for watching.